So Q&A, another round of applause for Cara. Thank you so much. So we have, so we have time for questions. My mic has the longer XLR cable, but if you have a question, depending on where you are, maybe you can come down, maybe I can come to you. So the Contemporary they used cat meows to kind of like meow meow and to stop people, so they can be respectful questions. I'm just gonna tell you stop. Just be respectful. Let's ask some questions. If you tweeted anything out, maybe we can see some there. Make sure to hashtag CMBall. But does anyone have any questions for Cara? Run around.
As a person with no real talent whatsoever myself, do you ever, now it seems as though creativity is something that keeps you going. Do you ever fear getting to a stage where you've done it and you can't keep going, or is it a never-ending thing you're going after, if that makes any sense?
Thank you for asking that question. Do you ever run out of bow ties? Would that ever happen? That would never happen.
No, but would somebody fear that? The success part is what I'm talking about.
Success can be...
Once you get to be so good, hey, I don't have to do this.
Yeah.
Or if you still have that in your heart, you always want to do it.
I mean,
That's where I think I'm done with the question.
yeah. And is that amazing? An amazing sweater? That is an amazing sweater. I love it. I know, and I think that's a really valid question. I do think that preoccupation with success can be really paralyzing and crippling. Preoccupation with making it perfect. I find that working with students, like that's the thing that holds them back. It keeps them from think about when you're a kid. You're just making stuff. You're just loving it while you're making stuff. Once you get a little bit older, there's judgment and there's criticism, and that stops people. That stops some people. I think it's important to ask yourself, like, would you rather be an expert at just one thing that you love so much that it's that one thing, or would you like to do a bunch of different things? For me, I sort of like to do a lot of different things, so I think that's why it's kind of like switching from different medium, from paintings to blogging to writing to a magazine. But no, I don't think I will ever run out of crazy ideas that are just, you're sitting at a table, usually it's collaborative, you're talking to somebody, maybe having a drink, like, what if this? Why don't we create whatever that thing is, whatever that weird thing is? No, and that's where the fun is.
Oh, Lord. Okay. This was part of the job description I was not ready for. Can you come down?
Hello. Hi. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for your presentation. I was wondering, so I'm a musician. I'm not as much of a visual guy, but I've always sort of like written a lot. I've always just written a lot in general because I sort of have this like desire to express things, and it's like
You've got a lot of opinions.
Yeah, well, not really opinions, trying to like figure out what my opinions are, because if someone asks me what I think about something, I'm always like vacillating between different things. But I've sort of had to write about music as I've started studying it, and I was wondering how you sort of made that transition or got that prompting to like write about art instead of like make it. I know you haven't stopped, but like where did you decide to make that the focus?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking that. So when I was in graduate school, there was this really great little arts and culture guide that was free. It was all over town. It was called Radar. And I saw it, and I knew a few people that were writing for it, and I was like, I want to write for that. Like, that looks awesome. That looks fun. So I reached out to the editor, and he was really encouraging, and he said, send me something, and I didn't have anything written, so I wrote a review and sent it to him, and he was like, that's terrible, and here's why. And I was like, okay. And he's like, rewrite it. And so I rewrote it, and I rewrote it again. And then after that, he was like, okay, I can work with you. So that was like the first time I was ever published. And it was a great publication. A lot of people read it, so I got a lot of good feedback as a writer. And I was like, okay, like I can do this. I enjoy doing this. But it really wasn't until my son was born when my time really changed. Like I couldn't be out as much in the world. I couldn't be out as much in my studio. But I could do the writing at home. So that it was almost like necessity caused that to happen. But the more I've gotten into it, the more I've fallen in love with it, and it seems to keep leading to the next step. I think, like once you hit a dead end, then it's time to like reconsider. But at this point, it just keeps moving forward. And I'm really interested and challenged and engaged by it. So for now, it's good.
So I have a question about this point where your life's work, Be More Art, you're getting closer and closer to that point of it not being financially viable. And then you get this phone call, the sort of the light from above, the angel comes down, however you want to look at it. Mm-hmm. If that hadn't happened, how long would have you kept going? And what would you have done? How much would you have moved heaven and earth to not have to make the decision to shut it down?
I honestly, I don't know. I really don't know. But I don't know. I don't know if I don't know if I really could have stopped doing it. I think I probably would have just, I was sort of like at a point where I was like, should I go into PR? Should I do this? Should I get a real job? Should I? So I think like had I taken those steps or gotten any of those real jobs, that would have affected what I was doing. But when I was working at the Urbanite, which was pretty full time, I still maintained Be More Art. So it's like, it is sort of like this addiction, this thing I can't stop doing. So I kind of suspect maybe I wouldn't have quit, but we definitely would not be where we are today.
Yes,
Come on
please
down.
How has your writing with Be More Art influenced the artwork that you personally create?
I mean, it's all related. I mean, people will say that certain parts of their lives are compartmentalized, but I don't think that that's true. So in the few pieces of work that I showed, you can see there's a lot of text and writing in that work, and that's always been there. It was actually something that my grad school advisors tried to stamp out, but it just kept coming back, and it's really part of what I do. So I think there was always a relationship between language, poetry, misinformation, misunderstandings, visual communication as well. But the one thing that I will say is that because the art writing has forced me to look at so much art all the time, constantly evaluating what's good, what's working, what's really powerful, I think those lessons have really kind of crept into what I do visually as well. So in the beginning, before I was a writer, I really liked to kind of flail around on the canvas and like figure it out as I go, and sort of romanticizing the act of painting, like this magical act, it'll come together. And I think now, having educated myself much better in terms of what's out there and what's really good, it's helped me be a really sort of vicious editor in my own studio and pare it back to what is really essential to the work. What do I want this work to do? So it's made me more focused, I think, in the art that I make.
I'm going to take this one real quick. You mentioned real jobs. And I feel like my parents, they're kind of like, oh, that's nice. Strangers, what is that? We support you anyway, but when are you going to be a producer again or something like that? And do you think that that's an issue for a lot of young people, young artists in Baltimore, having that I feel like people say real jobs as like, oh, a 9 to 5, but should they have the mindset of what they're doing if they are really passionate about it is also a real job?
Well, I mean, you still have your rent, you still have to buy food, you still need heat, so you have to figure out a way to make that happen. So whether it's a 9 to 5, whether it's part-time, I'm a big proponent of working part-time, making exactly as much as you need in the shortest amount of time possible, so then you can focus on your real work. I think that's a good thing to do. I think, the parental concern and like the voices in our heads about like what is a responsible decision, what is a responsible way to conduct your life, that's a whole other bag of whatever that's for you and your therapist to work out. But I think you just need to do whatever you need to do in order to create the time to do your real work, and eventually, or maybe sooner. I mean, these students who are coming out of school today are much more prepared than I ever was. I mean, they're ready to be self-starters. They're ready to start business. I think this is something that, more and more creative people are realizing that, I think I always thought there would be this tenure track position at a college waiting for me when I was done with my degree, and that hasn't happened. And it's actually a good thing. So the idea of artists becoming entrepreneurs, the idea of creating your own way, your own organization, your own business, for lack of a better word, I think is a really revolutionary thing. So I think, finding your own model for sustainability and taking care of yourself is a really radical thing. And I think artists are finally starting to understand that.
So the tagline, Baltimore's Art Authority, I've always wondered what you mean by that.
Well, it's actually not there anymore.
Okay.
We took that down.
What you did mean by it.
Yeah, we took that down like a year or two ago. But a friend of mine, when we were redesigning the site, this friend of mine who works in sales was like, hey, you need a tagline. Here's your tagline. And I was like, okay. We're not going to say who, but a friend of mine who was in sales suggested it, so I was like, okay, this person knows sales. I will do that. But yeah, it always kind of felt a little too something for me. Like I don't know. I mean, and I do think the publication actually sort of is that. I don't think any other publication writes about the arts every single day, the arts in Baltimore. But I don't know, and maybe that's just part of, learning to be a better business person. I mean, I'm always looking outside of the arts to other people who know how to do things I don't know how to do, and asking their advice and trying to figure out like a better way to do things that I don't know how to do. But yeah, so that's where that came from. No, I think we need more. I think we absolutely need more. And there's a fantastic style blog, and there's some other like younger publications that exist, but it's just interesting to see what lasts and what sustains, and sticking with it, I think, is really the challenge. But no, I think we absolutely need more, and I'm kind of shocked that there aren't more.
Hey, thank you. I was wondering, you mentioned quitting teaching, and that I know that's a huge deal. And I'm wondering if you had a mentor, or what was the catalyst to give you the courage to do that? Because it's a huge deal, and just feeling so exhausted and everything isn't really enough, I think. So I'm wondering who helped you do that, or what it was that you realized, I can do this, or not even I can do this, but I need to do this.
So I had always wanted to be a college professor. That was always sort of one of my goals. And the last year that I was finishing up, so I did this MFA program at MICA over 4 summers. So I was able to keep my job, be able to afford grad school, make work throughout the year, and then attend grad school in the summer. So it was kind of like going half time. So typically it's 2 years at MICA. I went for 4. The last year that I was teaching high school, I was getting ready to finish my MFA, and I knew it was sort of now or never. So I spent a good 6 months researching all the colleges in the region, sending letters, sending packets, sending emails to their department chairs, finding out who did the hiring, so that I wasn't sort of stepping out into nothing. And so when it came to that point, I had a few classes lined up for the fall that I could either take or not take, and so it felt like, I mean, I had sort of like made those plans and saved some money and sort of like got myself to the point where I could step off of that cliff, and something was there to sustain me. And that's when I was a dog walker too.
Awesome. Another round of applause for Cara Ober.